Hey, this is Brandon from String Pluckery. In this video, I'm going to show you my process for modeling up a four-sided radius gauge in Fusion 360. It's 3D printed, and it's a very quick print if you ever want to figure out the radius of your fretboard. I've already saved it, and I gave it the name radius gauge. The next step, let's right-click on radius gauge. Let's create a new component. We'll call it radius gauge. So let's do a top view for this sketch. Create sketch, and then click on this plane here. One thing I like to do is open this menu up so I can watch my sketch as I go through the process to make sure it stays constrained. And while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and name this sketch. So I like to name my sketches as I go through modeling something up just to help keep things organized. So let's hit R on your keyboard, do a center rectangle, and let's make this a construction line. So let's anchor the center of this rectangle down to this origin point right here. And then we'll do a 3x3 square. Alright, from here let's go to create, arc, 3-point arc. You see that construction line is still highlighted, so I'm going to click that because I want a solid line here. Just click on this point, and then this point, and then somewhere in the middle right here. Then we'll repeat that step for the next three sides. Alright, next let's go to modify and let's create some parameters. Click on this plus icon. It's called the first parameter radius 1. We'll go with a 12-inch radius. Radius 2, do 14. Radius 3, let's do 16. Radius 4 we'll do my favorite, which is 20. Alright, now let's click D on your keyboard, or you can hit this sketch dimensions icon up here. Click on your arc and click somewhere out in space away from the sketch. Start typing radius, and then you'll see the 4 parameters we just entered will pop up. So let's do radius 1 for this side, and then we'll repeat for the next 3 sides. Okay, now let's hit E on your keyboard, the shortcut for extrude, and let's do 125 thousandths. So now we got the basic shape. So a benefit of adding these parameters. So let's say we wanted to change one of the sides to 10. You can see now that this side went from 12 to a 10-inch radius. So I don't like these sharp corners, so let's go back into the sketch. Let's double click on that. Let's round these over. Let's do 0.1 of a millimeter. And repeat that for the other 3 corners. So we'll double check our sketch is still constrained and we're good to go. So next, let's create a new sketch on this surface. And this sketch is going to be the numbers that identify the radius for each side. So what I'm going to do is let's do a construction line. Hit L on your keyboard, then hit X on your keyboard to make it a construction line. And I'm going to eyeball lines for each side. From there, I'm going to hit D on the keyboard to set the distance between the midpoint and that line, and then we'll do something simple like 1 inch for each line. Okay. So now we have 4 construction lines. Now I want to hit R on the keyboard, make it a center rectangle, and I still want it to be a construction line. So I'm going to go around to all 4 sides and find the center line of the construction line that we just made. And let's do 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. Then I'm going to repeat that for the other 3 sides. Alright, while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and name this sketch. Let's call it radius number. Get all these dimensions out the way. Alright, so what I did here was pretty much create a layout for the radius numbers. Just making sure everything's symmetrical, looks centered, and looks good. Let's click on the A up here for your text box, or you can hit create and go to text. I just created a shortcut because I use it often. Click from this point to this point, and I believe this was 16. Yep. All right, you can see that we lost our constraint. So I know it has to be in this text box since I just created it. And the horizontal constraint should fix that. Yep. So we're good to go to move on to the next 3 blocks. One thing I like to do is rotate this. And the reason I like that is because it automatically sets the orientation for your text. So you don't have to use this, and it just seems simpler and a cleaner way to do it. I think this was 14. Again, let's put a horizontal constraint on the box. Just continue on. One thing to note, I already had the height set at 1/4 of an inch, and you want to make sure you have a line center and a line middle turned on. All right, from here, let's hit E on the keyboard, and let's click all 4 numbers. We're going to extrude those in. My go-to is 50 thousandths for any text like this. So that's it. That's your basic radius gauge. You can get this printed in under an hour and be ready to go. For a model like this, I would recommend downloading this parametric text version 2.4.0 add-on. Let's open this sketch back up. Click on modify. Then after you download the add-on, you should be able to see it under the modify menu, change text parameters. So let's click on those selections and then click on this text right here. As you can see, radius number is now selected, and specifically it's going to connect to this text within the sketch. It's going to be a bracket, radius 1, which is the first parameter that we created, period, lowercase v value, colon, period, 0f, then close bracket. So what this is telling me is it's going to take the value that we enter in the text box for the parameter called radius 1, and then this 0f is the format that we're choosing. So add a new row, click on no selections, and click on 14. Make it easy, copy, paste, and then just change the 1 to a 2. We'll repeat that step for radius 3 and 4. Okay, then hit OK. Let's finish the sketch. So what this does, say you want to change the radius on this side to 10. Just type 10, hit OK. So you can see that the text changed. So not only did the text change, but it also correlates with the new radius that we just entered in. So this is much easier than going back through, finding the sketch, typing in the radius that you want. This just makes it very automatic. One issue with this, let's say you wanted to go to a 7 1/4 radius on one side and a 9 1/2 radius on the other. So you can see here that it didn't display any of the decimal places, any of the numbers past the decimal for 7 1/4, and 9.5 was rounded up to 10. The only way that I know of to get past this is to go back to change text parameters. So for radius 1, we'd have to change 0 to 2, since there's 2 numbers we want to display after the decimal. And then for radius 2, change it from 0 to 1. And click OK. And it's not perfect, but it's still a lot easier than going back through your sketches and editing from there. If there's a better way to do this, please let me know. I haven't figured it out yet or put the time in to figure it out. And just always keep in mind, let's say you go to change the parameter, you want to go back to 12 for this one. You see it's still displaying the 2 zeros because we still have it formatted to show 2 decimal places. So just remember to go back and change that to 0. Click OK. Then from here, you can right click, save as mesh, click OK, and then it'll export to whatever location you want to save it at on your computer. So you can take that STL and import it into your slicer.